What a day, what a day, what a day. What a couple of days, I should say. Not what a day, but what a couple of days it has been. And I wasn't on yesterday because I was out doing my border run. And the thing that I absolutely hate doing every 90 days. And why am I talking about that at all? Well, because I'm getting ready to talk about the Bates family and immigration and various hypocrisy and racism that goes on among these groups. Who is the Bates boy I'm talking about today, Trace, and the Bates family. The Bates family were close friends of the Duggar family, and they were featured on their show a number of times to the point where they finally got their own show, the United States of Bates, I think it was, and they had another one. So they had two different reality TV shows. Now, the first time we saw the Bates on the Duggar show, it was kind of interesting because all of the Bates girls were wearing prairie style. Hey, Ginger. Listening while uttering. Yeah. So the Bates family was their good friends. Gil Bates sat on the IBLP's board. He was on the board when Bill Gothard was kicked out. Now, I haven't looked lately to see if he's still there. But the Bates family, the girls dressed in prairie wear. They were dressed like they were on Little House of the Prairie. They lived in Tennessee on almost no money. You saw how they were living at the beginning, going, oh my word, how are they living with all those kids and that torn up mobile home? But hey, it is what it is. That's the reality for most quiverful families. Well, because the Bates ended up with television shows, two of them, and Gil ended up on the IBLP board and various other things happened, the Bates lifted themselves above their circumstances, much like Jim Bob Duggar, but a little more successfully. They look less freakish now. Their kids have married and started having children, and that's been interesting to look at. Well, Trace and his brother went to the whole January 6th insurrection in DC. Okay, chanting, build the wall. Now, if you know me, I'm kind of liberal in my views. I vote all over the political spectrum. I don't stick with any one party right now. I haven't in a long time. In fact, I'm looking at a couple of Republicans that I like for president better than what the Democratic Party is showing. So anyway, long story short, January 6th. Okay. So Trace and his brother Lawson were there, okay, taking part in that. And they are what I consider unindicted co-conspirators, even though I don't know if they actually went in the Capitol building. I think, that most of the guys that have been prosecuted for this crap actually went in the building, which I still cannot wrap my mind around because, we lived in Washington, D.C., and to go into the Capitol building with so many different security precautions, and I just cannot imagine them overwhelming the police force there. It must have been awful. So these two guys were at this awful, while the rest of their family, the girls, were showing their decorating skills in all beige and other Bates related schemes for money. And Trace married a girl from the Romiki family. Okay. She's being deported. She's being deported, and her entire large family is being deported from Morristown, Tennessee. Why? Well, because they came from Germany. They came from Germany to the States, and they claimed political asylum because they had been fined almost $10,000 in school fines for not having the kids in German type schools. They were homeschooling their children. There are a lot of places in the world where homeschooling is illegal as hell. Germany was one of them. Now, what their status is now, I don't know. They may have changed some. But once upon a time, Germany was one of those places where you just did not homeschool. They didn't allow it. You could get huge fines. So the Romiki family came to the U.S. and tried to apply for asylum. They were initially granted provisional asylum. And then a judge ruled against him and said that homeschooling, persecution, that they weren't really facing that the laws in Germany were pretty clear cut, that it wasn't persecution like they were claiming. So their status was overturned. And it was only provisional anyway. It wasn't a final status like, yeah, you're supposed to be here. Click, here's your green card. None of that. So the whole family now has 4 weeks to go back. I didn't look and see from what date. They're supposed to self-deport. And if they don't self-deport, they could be in a world of trouble. Where this comes in with the whole Bates family is that Trace Bates married one of the Romiki daughters, and she has to now self-deport as well. Exactly why Trace didn't take the easy thing and look at doing the 90-day thing, doing the, marrying somebody from another and filing all the paperwork for that. I don't know why he didn't do that. I would have done it, particularly knowing that the family their status had been overturned and they'd been fighting in the courts about whether or not they were actually allowed to be homeschooling, and not just homeschooling, but allowed to be a refugee here, there, since I'm in Costa Rica, there in the States. And I would have, if it had been me, but then again, I am worrisome and is one of those people, I will file every little piece of paper I need to file to make things happen. So Trace is kind of making me laugh because he is uttering words like, this isn't fair, and they're the good kind of immigrants while this is going on. And Trace has also been one of those guys that's been no importation of the brown people from Central and South America. He's been fighting that and yelling, build a wall and the whole 9 yards the whole time. He has actually said a number of times that because they're white, they should be allowed. And he says it's because they're white, conservative, and Christian, they should be allowed here, and about the homeschooling. And he's just claiming that this is religious persecution now. It's the fault of Obama and Biden, according to him. The judges refusing to let them stay in the United States was Obama appointed. And Trace loves to point that crap out. So Trace Lawson at the Capitol shouting, build that wall. All I can say is I'm agreeing with the people on Fundy Snark. Over at Reddit, that the irony is sweet and the karma is deserved. The Bates have acted, almost as arrogantly as the Duggars in so many ways. For this to go down is actually kind of funny. So Bates, get off your asteroids and file the paperwork you need to keep your wife here, for God's sake. There are ways, if you marry an American, to keep somebody here, but you have to file the paperwork. You have to register with the State Department. You have to do all that stuff. And that's a truism about these religious people. They do not want to abide by the same rules as everybody else. So I'm seeing this again and again and again. They just arrogantly avoid the rules. And yes, they tried to use homeschool legal defense people, the Hilsa people, to stay here, and it hasn't worked out well for them. And I don't know why they would listen to them anyway. The Hilsa homepage says that Costa Rica allows homeschooling, and so does Panama. Nope, they do not. And they catch you homeschooling here. Guess what? You're told to either be self-deport by a certain date or put your kids in Costa Rican school. And if you can't do that, they will grab you up and physically deport you. Do you really want that? Do you really want that in the States even? Look, abide by the law, damn it. And find some other status to claim residency in the U.S., something like investor or something like that. But don't make these claims about persecution where there isn't any religious persecution, and then scream that you're being discriminated against, particularly when you're somebody who's discriminating against people with brown skin coming up from Central America, South America, people who are fleeing violence and poverty and other bugaboos that are more real than you being deported, you being persecuted because you're homeschooling. It just doesn't work.